Hello, this is Valerie Wallace Fine Arts, and I'm here in my basement studio to have my Sunday night art class via Zoom. And tonight we are going to do this sunset from the dock. I think if it's, that sentimental ending of the summer for us around here anyway. And the painting originally is done, I believe, by Alexander Greco, but it might be Alexandria, I'm not really sure. Okay, so what I was just saying is that what makes this sunset a little bit different than a lot of the sunsets that we do is that it's a little more with earth tones. Okay, things are have a little bit of brown to them. What I wanted you to see is that in some ways, half the painting is just a sunset. Okay, and then what also is that it's in kind of stripes. There's a little bit of a blue stripe. Then you have, the sky, which is a little bit orange and yellow and brown. Okay. Then you're going to have that reflection of that. They're basically the same thing. And then down here is where we have the dock with the perspective. And all that's happening is you're getting a little of the blue from the sky is just reflecting on the sides. Okay. The other thing about it is that it is a watercolor. And so it has a lot of white. Okay. There's and that keeps it with a certain freshness that a really heavy, oil painting or acrylic painting, they don't always have. But we're going to put white in our painting. We're going to try to keep a lot of white in there so that we don't lose that. Okay. The other thing about it is that we have this dock that is in perspective. Okay. That means that even though it's smaller at this part of the dock than it is at this part of the dock, in reality, they're the same size. But because we make this smaller, it looks farther away. Our brain just knows that, okay? So we're gonna create this illusion in our painting. And tonight, if you have an extra, so for the paint, this is what I have. I have two big whites. A little tiny bit of red, you might not even need it. A nice glob of yellow. Some brown and blue next to each other, which is where we're gonna make our gray for the dock and kind of our dark color. That's down here, whoops. And then I have a little tiny bit of blue if I wanna use that for the sky. Okay, I've got a little red. I've got a white. I've got a yellow. I have a tan. I have a cooler blue. Okay. And this is my sienna. And I also have a sea. What we're gonna do a horizon line and we're gonna sketch in our dock. I want you to use the lightest possible color that you have, because you're gonna need to, you may want to correct something. You may want to paint over it a little bit. So I would say take some yellow, a little tiny bit of yellow, and put it in one of your whites and make it the lightest yellow as long as you can still see it. I have to make it darker or you won't see it. Okay, but that's what you're going to start with. So if you're drawing, get something really light. Yellow will be fine. Okay, so let's do this. So the first thing we want to do is we're going to put in our horizon line. All right, and that is about a third of the way down. And then the top of the dock is about another third. So you start with that. I'm going to use, like I said, more yellow. Okay, so I'm going to go across about here. Oh, you can see it. Okay, good. Let me turn this light up. Let me get going. That helps. Okay. And then I will draw with my yellow. Okay.
You guys doing?
Great. I'm having my class. No talking. No talking. Okay. All right. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to make the top of our dock. And this is what I'm going to do. Because I'm going to make my dock just a little bit to the left of my page, and I'm going to wind up making my sun a little bit to the right. That's because I want, when I have my sun and I have my shadows for my posts, they'll be easy to see and easy to make because the sun will be coming at an angle. If it's right at the top and that's right at the top, it makes it kind of hard to do. You can do it any way you want to. So like I said, it's about a third. This is about a third of my paper. I'm going to go down about another third, and that's where I'm going to put the top of the dog. Okay. So right about here, don't make it this big. Don't make it like a half an inch, but make it on the smaller side. So I'm going to do that like maybe right about here, about that big. Okay. Now what you're going to do is right in the middle of your line, you're going to go up to where your horizon line is, and you're just going to mark a little bit with your just enough so you can see it. Okay. Then you're going to take whatever you have. I have an extra paintbrush. Okay. What I'm going to do, what you do is you line up the dot with the edge of that line. Okay. Like this. And from the top of your dot, you paint a line that comes down like this. Okay. This dot should be in the middle of this line. That's how we're setting it up. We're making our focal point right in the middle. It doesn't actually have to be, of course, but this will make it easier. And then you're just lining up that dot with this part on the line. Okay. I'll do it. Okay. Same thing here. I might get paint on my picture, but that's all right. Okay. Then you're going to do the same thing on the other side. You're going to mark, you're going to hold your, whatever you have, line it up like this.
He's upstairs.
Yeah. Okay. Are you guys doing this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Make a dot.
Is it making sense?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Oh, can't see that one very good. Let's see. Okay. All right. Most of the time when I do the perspective things, we just sort of eye it up. But I thought this was such a basic way of doing it that it would be just handy to know. Okay. This is the next thing you're going to do. The end of your dock, you're going to put your upright posts about, you're just going to have to kind of guess at how tall you want those to be. Okay. I would say they're probably about the same height as it is wide, but it depends. If you have a really, really wide dock, that's not so much the case. And we're going to go on the premise that all of these are about the same height, but in this painting, they're not that same height. So it doesn't really matter. I mean, obviously you can have your posts be different sizes. Okay, but this is what you do if you want them to be the same size. Okay, now you're taking the top of you're going to put the tops of the posts in. Okay, and then you're going to mark from the focal point to the top of the post like this. Okay. All right. The only thing you have to remember here is that when you draw these lines, is that they go straight up and down. You're going to want to lean them, but they don't. They go straight up and down like this. And in reality, too, they get farther apart as they come down, but don't worry too much about that. Okay. And when you do this one, you have to make probably one more that doesn't even look, it's not even attached to the dock, which always seems unsettling, but makes sense. Okay. I'll make one more like this. Okay. You don't even have to do this. If it's getting in, you're like, oh no, it's Sunday night, I don't want to think about doing this. This is crazy. Just skip it. It doesn't matter. You can just draw them in later, or you don't have to have them. You can just have people, you could just have the ones at the end. Okay, so I've lined up the top of my brush to the top of the post, and then these lines have to go vertically, straight up and down. Whoops, it's hard to do. It's hard to convince your brain that that's what they do, but that's what they do. So if they didn't come out right, you did it really lightly. So if they don't come out right, you can just color over them. Okay. Okay. All right. Same brush. We're gonna leave this we're gonna come back to this in a little bit. Okay. So the next thing you're gonna do is that we don't want to forget about our sun because we want to keep that nice and bright. So you're going to take your white and your yellow, okay, and keep it kind of on the light side, okay? So more white than yellow, and you're going to come, like I said, I'm going to put mine over on the side. You know, it's pretty low to the horizon line, but I'm going to make a bigger circle than I think I want because I can always make it smaller. And below my sun, I'm going to mark, I'm just going to wiggle my brush back and forth down like that, okay? So with my pastel, which I just lost. Oh, there it is. Okay, same thing. I've got a pretty light yellow. Oops. There it is right there. Let's see. I'm going to go right about there. And I'm going to put some yellow down here. Okay. I mean, lots of times the reflection of the sun on the water is actually pretty much white, but it actually is easier to have it be yellow. Okay, so the next thing we're working on is the section from about the top of your dock probably to a little above your sun, okay, like right in here. That's this, okay? And it's kind of, it's mostly yellow. It has a little bit of the sienna mixed with the white. And if you want, there's a little bit of kind of like maybe the red and the brown and yellow together. So any way that you put these colors on here is fine, okay? I'll try to do something similar to that. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of this white and yellow and I'm going to spread it around from where the sun is so that it doesn't look outlined. Now I just have a white circle in this yellow area. And I'll just side to side kind of, don't go all the way to the top, leave a little bit of space at the top. And I'm just going to blend on here quite a bit of the white and yellow, okay? And because it's mostly just yellow on the top, this is a different color down here. So I think I'll kind of leave it like that. And on this pastel, so try that. And then on the pastel, what you're going to do when you're drawing is that you have to take that line you made for the sun and you have to blend that into, so you don't look like you have a line anymore. You just have some yellow up here. Okay. Like that. All right. Okay. Rinse your brush off. Okay. And you're going to take a little of your sienna. Start with a little bit, because remember, we want to keep the colors light. And you're going to put some of that in the white. And because it's so red, it's going to make kind of a pink, but not a bright pink, not flat like flower pinks. Okay. Let's see what the color of that is. And that's maybe with a little, this color here is kind of where I have, I mean, you could add a little bit of the yellow in there too, but okay. And that's going to be down here. And I'm going to paint right over the posts because I'm going to add those darker later. Okay. So I'm going to blend this in a little bit on both sides. It's very light down there. I'm going to blend a little bit of it in up here in the sky. Just mostly working side to side. Right. Like that. And to get the part up here, this is just a little bit more brown. So I'll just take a little bit more of my sienna and make a spot where I make it just a little darker. You know, so it's pretty dark. I might just take a little more white and blend that in there. Okay, so it's this you know, it's not a photograph, and actually sunlight on the lake, it does all kinds of crazy stuff. So there's not a lot of rules to it. It's just because what makes this painting different is just that the colors have more brown in them instead of the usual sunset things that I have. Okay, so that's that. If you're drawing, the thing is with the drawing is that you're going to want to blend some white into it. Okay, that's where the white comes in. It's kind of the same thing if you ever have to buy paint. You've got to have something dark, but most of the colors that you need are actually a lot lighter, and you go through a lot of white, so you're better off to get, when in doubt, get some lighter colors. All right, so I put that sienna on there, and then I'll just take my white and kind of blend that on there. That'll give me that kind of peachy brown color. All right. And okay. Here, so just a little different color. Okay, so on the sky has kind of the same pose, but it does have a little bit of this would be where we'd use the red. Okay, I didn't even rinse my brush, but I'll just take, you know, what I have for red here. I'm not going to need much actually. The red's going to go a long way, so just that little dab of red on my brush is going to make an orange here. Okay, so you can try that if you want. More yellow than red. Okay, and you know, maybe in here a little bit. I mean, the great thing about using watercolors to go by is that they're really loose the way that they put the paint on, and also because you're not covering everything, you get a little of that sort of dry brush feel to it. And I think it tends to be easier because you realize that it doesn't need to be so perfect, and like you don't have to blend everything just perfectly. You can have it be a little looser. All right, so that's pretty close. I'm gonna put a little more. How do you get the orange? Just a tiny bit of red and yellow, mostly yellow. I'm gonna put a little more of my white and my yellow, this color, this very light yellow. I'm just gonna put a little more of that in the sky on top of things. Okay, that'll kind of lighten things up. Kind of blends that. We're gonna put that the land in there and just well, maybe we'll let it dry a little bit and we'll come put the land in there. I don't know. There. Okay. Okay, and over here. I have a little red too. It's a pretty cool red. Yeah, it's funny because I think painting a lot of times, especially landscapes, I find that a watercolor is great to use. But if you're going to do animals, you really need to use a photograph, because just being off on the proportions a little tiny bit that might happen by copying somebody else's painting or drawing is a huge risk because it's so important that you get the proportions exactly right when you're doing animals. And what was the other thing I was gonna, oh, one more yellow. Yeah, okay. But I think that painting acrylics or anything from a photograph can be just really daunting because there's just so much detail and it's not set up to be necessarily to be painted. And also, oh, a photoshopped photograph makes it almost impossible to make something look realistic because it doesn't look realistic in the first place. So everybody loves a Photoshop photograph that you use as your screensaver, but it's really a hard thing to paint from, I think, but you know, what do I know? Okay, all right. We ready? We're going to the next thing?
Yeah.
All right. Whoops, I need to put a little something here, I guess. Okay, so what we're gonna do next is we're gonna put some white in this area and maybe on the top. I think it would, I mean, it probably would be helpful to have it just ever so lightly blue, but I don't want you to wind up with blue water. So, I mean, with blue paint. So I don't want you to do that if you think that you can't manage it. So let's do it on the top maybe first. I'm gonna take my brush, I'm gonna take some white paint, and I'm gonna put it on the painting up top. I'm just gonna spread that around. I know you probably can't see it, but it's an easy thing to blend into the yellow too. Put a little of that up there, okay? So if you're drawing, this is a great one because you don't have to fill everything in. And I do have this, I don't know what happened with this. It's ugly, but I'm gonna put this blue up here a little bit. Okay. To get just a little hint of blue on the top, take a scoop of white and just the tiniest bit of blue. Like, I mean, I only have like this much, and I might even dab a little off. And I'm gonna put that, well, I need a little bit more. Okay, and we have the white up there already, so that's helpful. And I'm gonna just blend a little of this blue like into that white. Okay, you can put in as much as you think will, as much as you like. You painted your sky, oh, that's all right, that's all right, you don't need it to be there. Oh, well, paint it white and let it dry. Yeah, yeah. I mean, the great thing about acrylic paint is basically the white is an eraser. Okay, so if you ever do something you're not crazy about, either let whatever it is dry, or if it's very thick, take some of that paint off, let it dry, paint some white over, not just on that one spot, but kind of blend it out a little bit. And then let that dry a little bit and then go and paint over it with other colors. And the better thing to do when you make a mistake is to go at it a little bit at a time, like one layer and another, you know, let that dry and then do another layer until it's how you like it, instead of just taking all the paint you can get and trying to scoop it on there like it's frosting and like cover it up. You just have to layer it on there and you can just cover up anything. It's very forgiving. Okay. So we're going to do the same thing on the sides of the dot. So if you're drawing, you know, you're really only going to put in that whatever you used up here at the top for the blue or the gray, that's kind of what you're putting in down here. Okay. But if you're painting, we're going to put it with, I think this is what I would do. Oh, I don't know. Can you see it? Oh, there you go. So this white right here is a little tiny bit of blue in there. I'm going to put more white into that. So it's just the lightest blue. Maybe some of this too. But if you put the paint on and you say, whoa, that's blue, just clean your brush. Just clean your brush and then just get white paint and just mix it from there on out. Okay, but clean your brush off, because otherwise you're still gonna have a lot of blue left there. All right, and again, I'm just gonna go over my posts. They're gonna show through enough that I won't need to leave them behind. I don't want to paint around that. If they're wet, then maybe you're gonna have a little yellow water, but I don't know. All right. You know, and you should be able to just kind of go over the bottom of your peachy bit there, sunset. Blend that right in. Right. There we go. There's that. Oh yeah, I was gonna paint over those. Mine are a little wet, so I don't know. That's okay though. Yeah. All right. You know, and then while it's wet, if you want to put just a little, actually, well, no, I think I'm going to use the blue here. A little bit of side to side blue in the water here. If you like gray and you have gray, you can do that instead. But as long as it's light, it won't matter too much what the color is. There. All right. Can you see that? Kind of. Let's see. Okay. There. How's it going? Is it relatively painless? I mean, this would be one too, that if you wanted to make
aggressively barreling towards the earth.
like instead of the white sun, if you wanted to put an orange one in there or a red one or a black one or whatever you want to do. Black hole sun, won't you come? Yeah, this one, the painting also has a little more, that's a wacky looking reflection, has a little more color around it, but I'm not gonna worry about that. Okay. Okay. All right, so what we're gonna do next, is to do the land. Let me think, do I want to do it first? Yeah, let's do that first. Because it should be dry enough now that even if you're kind of thick with the paint, it will go on there. So again, just like, you know, other times that I've mentioned this, the smaller you make these little hills, the farther away it's going to look. If you make it this tall, especially if you go zigzag, 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 like kids make mountains, it's gonna look close. But if you take, we're gonna start taking we're gonna use the brown and the blue. We're gonna put those together. So you can mix those up. And when you're mixing your paint, try to push it together in a pile. And it should still look brown. If it looks blue, add a little more brown if you have it, like you have maybe some more down here. Okay. That's the test. And something like this is often really hard to tell. So I usually keep a scrap piece of paper handy so that I can test it. So mine looks kind of like that. Okay, which would kind of be sepia. Okay. If you've added your brown and you still think it looks too blue, I think if you took what you have left over for red, that won't hurt. Okay, that'll make it look a little more red and a little browner. Okay. All right. You're gonna, the bottom where the hill meets the water is as horizontal as you can do it. Okay. Oh, much. Put that right in there. Okay, and I'm gonna just put that line on there and then, yeah. It's pretty dark, but it doesn't need to be crazy dark. And then I'm just gonna add a little bit to the top of that line to give it a little shape. And I think, you know, if your land is this far away, then it probably doesn't make a reflection on the water like it would if it were a little closer. So I think you're good with just that line. Okay. All right. Okay, so this is what we're gonna do next. Right? Everybody good? Okay. So on this dock, the boards go like up and down, which I've never seen a dock that has boards that go like this way. I always see them right side to side. Do you guys see them like that?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna make them side to side like a railroad track because it's really an easy way to continue to show perspective. Because what happens is we'll start at the bottom and you make a pretty decent sized line, and then you just bring that line up, and then as you get closer to the top, you just make them get closer together. And if they get really close together, you can't see the lines, it doesn't matter. Okay, but that's what we're gonna do. So we're gonna take this color that we just used here, the blue and the brown mixed together, okay? And this is how we're gonna get kind of our dark color, and we're also gonna have a gray. But we'll start with the dark color, okay? So we're just going, you know, this is really where our detail is and where the impact is. So we want to use this pretty dark. So first thing you're going to do is you're going to go over your yellow lines that you have here, okay? Doesn't have to be, you know, super careful or pristine marks or anything, because it's an old dock. It's not brand new. It's not an aluminum dock from Hammond Lumber. So it can be a little bit rough looking, okay? But you're gonna cover those lines up like that. I wish I could find my Sienna, because my sepia, because I can't do it with blue. Here, this will work. Okay. How are you doing, Veronica? You got it? I mean, it's not my best, but you never know. That's because you're socializing. That's all right. That's good. Okay. All right. So, same color, same brush. We're going to wind up having to paint the boards on top of this line we've made. So don't worry about it being super tiny or anything like that, okay? And also, you know, they're different colors. The weathering has changed them and made them different colors. So you don't have to have exactly the same color every time you put a line on there. You're going to start at the bottom and make yourself a pretty wide board at the bottom, okay? The wider you make it, the easier this is to do, okay? The next one you go up would be just a hair smaller, or be about the same, okay? And then, you know, you just see if you can make them a little bit smaller. Making them smaller as you go up is easier than making them bigger, I think, because they come out being really weird big, because you start making them big too quickly. Okay, but if you get them too small, they're just too small. It's fine. All right, and then you just kind of get, so they're just kind of right there, closed right in. All right, so I made it pretty big at the bottom. I guess if you know, I didn't say too, if you want to make the boards go the other way, what you're thinking about is your focal point, that every line is the same thing that we did when we did the dock, is that they're all coming from your focal point and they're going out in there's one straight one down the middle. But I think this is easier, but you can do it any way you want. We'll do, like a still life. I do a still life sometimes with a checkered cloth, and that is really fun because you can use perspective and really simply, and like, it just is magical. Okay, all right. The next thing I do, same color or, you know, more, or any variation of the brown and the blue, because these don't have to be exactly the same. You're gonna go over your posts, okay? And they don't have to be, you know, well, I guess you can be skinny if you want them to be, but if you don't, they don't need to be. Okay. The thing is, they have to go vertically. If they don't, they're gonna look like they're, you know, they're broken. Okay, which, you know, it's okay, but they will look like they're broken. Okay, and they would be a little bit thicker, the ones that are closer to the bottom of the page. So if you make these with one brush stroke, you could probably double it up by the time you're down to the one down here. Okay. That one's gonna be big. That's close. Yeah. All right. Oh. Oops. There it is. Okay. Oh, I almost forgot the special clouds. Oh yeah, that's cool. Sorry, I think I can turn this now. Oh no, maybe not. Ooh, it's light. Okay, so the inside of these planks, we want it to be something lighter. Okay, so my plan is to make sort of a gray. So all you do is you keep this, save a little of this dark color. So, but maybe take a big scoop of this brown and blue that you have and add it to some white. And if you have white, like even the pinky white that I had over here, if you have this, that you used on the sunset, if you have a bunch of that, you could use that too. You could put that right in there. Okay, that's going to give you sort of some sort of grayish brownish color. Okay, and you know, if you use this one color for every single board, they're all going to look the same. But if you you know, and I'm going to put them in here like this, but this is what I would do. Okay, if you want to watch, then I would put a little bit on there like this, and then the next thing I would do is, instead of getting that same color of paint, I might stick my brush into the dark paint again, and oops, that's blue. Oh well, and kind of blend in a different shade, and just kind of mush that around a little bit. If it's too much, just wipe your brush on your cloth. Don't necessarily have to wash it, but you know, and I can always put a little more. Okay, that's painting. That's the fun thing you do when you're painting, is that you get to mush around colors, and any shade of brown or gray or white, all will look good on this dock, right? Anything you have, unless you want to paint your dock like orange and white stripes, which is what our dock was when in the 70s. I could put that on there like that, maybe take a little bit of brown, brush it in there. Ooh, wrong way. Okay, so try that. If you're drawing, you know, like if you have a bunch of different shades of brown, it would be fun to like blend a couple on each plank, a little different. But if you only have basic brown, then you want to probably mix your lightest blue with your brown, and that'll give you the gray. You may have to add a little white too. And you probably lose some of that line between, but you could touch it up if you like it, or you can just not have it too, it doesn't matter. Oops, I got dock out here. And I think your posts are on the outside of the dock. So I think ultimately the line of the side of the dock is going to overlap the post. Is that right? Okay. All right, I can see on my dock here that it's got a little, this one not so much, but this one's a little wacky, little off kilter. So I've got a little nub of a brush, like, I don't know, once it was long and bristly, and now it's just a little nub. And I can redo these lines a little bit so that they're a little more horizontal. There, at least a couple at the beginning. One of the other things you might want to do, oh, wait a minute, we gotta put that shadow on there. Okay, let's do that. Okay, so I guess I don't need to worry about that. Okay, so we want to have shadows for the posts that are on the right side because the sun is going to hit those posts and then cause a shadow. And it's also really going to work in perspective in a way too. Like the angle for the first post is about like right here, but the angle for the other post starts to tip down. So this one's going to go in this direction. This one's going to, I mean, that's what would happen in reality, but of course it doesn't really matter. So depending on how wet your paint is and whatever, you're going to take your dark brown, your dark sienna and blue mixed together, or whatever you have for a dark brown. And the sun's really low, so that means the shadows are long. So you're going to come from this. Okay, and you know, it is something that, you know, the dock is, this is something that's not really there, so it's okay if it blends in a little bit. All right, and that is going to be that one. I can only do these two, so this one will go right off the page. Okay. This is one of those things that like I almost forgot, but it's a great way to show space, 3 dimensions. And make sure that the shadow touches the post at the bottom. There shouldn't be a little gap in there. All right. And I can do a little bit more on this one. So I want the shadows to kind of blend in, so I'm gonna hit the stripe a little bit. Okay. All right, the other thing, there's like, I think two things, oh, no, there's three things left to do. I don't know what time it is, but 3 things, okay? One of them, and all 3 of them are optional. One of them is on this dock that, if you have a pretty thick post here, that's dark, right? The sun it's probably either rounded or a 2x4.
Right, you guys can make them go all the way across, which is not.
The shadows, yeah, they're pretty long. Yeah. On the long side rather than the short side. You might want to take your gray, maybe not too light. We'll see how it comes out. But have a gray and have a pretty small brush. And on the right side, you could put a little highlight on your posts. It's going to show the most where they're dark, like this one. Okay. You know, and it may not, you know, depending on how the color of your post, depending on the color of your water, it may not show that much. It may not be that worth it, but that would be one thing you can do. No matter how tiny they are, you can do it kind of on the outside, or if you made them kind of thick and you're like, oh, I wish I'd made them so thick, then you can make them do it kind of painted on the inside, or also like let it dry and hit that later if they're really wet. Okay, but that gives it's drawing that's a little trickier if you had a really dark part and then use like a lighter gray, you could draw it on there, but it's a little bit trickier. All right, so that's one thing to do. All right, do that. I'm going to put, this is actually a different thing, but I'm going to put a little bit of extra, I put a little bit more brown in my light pink color I had in my sunset. I'm going to put it right along the sides of my reflection a little bit. So that shows up. It's pretty dark on that one. I could probably put a little red in there too. But the darker I am around that sun reflection, the more it's going to show up. So in 2, if you felt like, I'll try it anyway. Yeah, maybe I'll do it over here. So if I have, maybe I want to like, maybe not this big, maybe a little smaller, but maybe I want a little red sun in my, I don't know. Okay, all right. The other thing I want to do are a little bit of clouds, okay? So what you want is one of your smaller brushes, maybe not the tiniest brush, but something on the smaller side, okay? I'm going to use this one. And the color is, I'm going to say it's blue with maybe a little brown, okay? So I still have this big glob of blue that I have left over, okay? I'm not going to need much paint. So I put that there. I'll take a little bit of brown, not so much this time. Okay, and what it will do is kind of, you put enough in there and it will make it look a little bit like a steely gray. Okay, you put a lot in, you're gonna get brown again, but it can get, we're kind of in that middle range, can be a little bit green. Let me see what color I've got. No, that's all right. Okay, and maybe just a little tiny bit of white. That makes sense? Then you can see, if you add that white, you can see if it's still blue. Okay. I could probably use a little more blue. I wonder if I have any here. You guys have enough blue? Mm-hmm. You guys, your pictures look great. You too, Veronica. So it's kind of gray. I'm going to put a little bit more blue in there. Okay. So if you're drawing, this would be like, maybe a dark purple, indigo, something like that maybe. Okay, this is my hint. There's not much for clouds, but they have a crazy shape. And one of the secrets, I think, is you put a little paint on here, and instead of holding your brush like a pencil, hold your brush on the back of it, or like that, on the bottom, okay? And what you do, you could practice this too if you needed to, okay? Is to just come out here and just roll it. Kind of a different color, but okay. And then I have a kind of a big one, and then maybe a little bit smaller. You don't need too much paint. You might even like daub off a little bit. I'm not getting it.
What are your colors again? Did you mix?
I mixed blue with a little bit of brown, tiny bit of brown, and a little bit of white, mostly blue. If you have purple, I mean, it's kind of violet. It's blue. I don't know what color it is. It's kind of gray blue. So if you have blue and you add a little brown, that'll kind of, and add a little white, that makes it kind of grayish. Mine's pretty dark, but you know, if you have purple, you could use purple. You could use red, like dark red, add a little brown to your red, make a maroon, anything like that. And then I put it right over here, roll a little bit here too. You just can't really control it, so you get that cool shape, I think, and it's cool. You know, I wouldn't have much paint, but maybe I want to put a little of that down here. Same thing, I've got the kind of just the bottom of my brush. Like that. Okay, so the last thing to do is to paint the birds. Okay, and the interesting thing about these birds are the fact that one of them has his wings hanging down and the other one's kind of going up like this instead of, you know, just a little V. Get a small brush. Don't make them black. Don't just whip out the black and I got silhouettes, I gotta have some black in there. Just use something that's kind of dark grayish. The lighter you use, you know, you're not gonna use yellow, but the lighter the color is, the more it will complement your picture without overtaking it. And chances, you know, and the less detailed you are about it, the more that it makes sense, because the birds are far away and you really don't, you know, you're not going to see their eyeballs and, you know, each feather or anything. You're just going to see a shape in the sky and you know what it is. Okay. So and if you don't have a tiny brush, you could use the back of your brush, like the wood tip end. That's sometimes good. Or, you know, even a toothpick, or like an old felt tip pen that doesn't have any ink anymore. Or you could even draw it on there with a pencil or something if you wanted to. But if you use a felt tip brush that doesn't have any ink, you can use it just like a brush. But I got this little nubby one, and I'm gonna use this brown here. I'm pushing a little bit more white into it because I know I don't make very good birds. So okay. And then after if you're using a little brush and you've mixed up your paint, wipe it off when you're done, because you'll have a big glob of paint. That's not the point. So just a little bit. Okay. So I'll just get a little bit of paint, just kind of tap it on the top. And whoop, one of them has, like, I got my arm right in there. I'm going to put my little pinky down like this because it's pretty dry here, but I need something to support my hand. So there's one that has a little piece that comes down, and then it just kind of meets the thing and goes up again. It's a little heavier. And then it has and then you can kind of push that paint a little bit. Yeah, that's all right. And then the other one is more of like a glob that has a piece that comes down and then another piece that comes down. Kind of weird. I kind of like that they're like that. I'm gonna put one more on there. I'm gonna put a sideways bird because I like that. I saw it one time in my pictures and I was like, oh yeah, that's great. All right, so I'm gonna do a sideways. Yes. So this will be great if you struggled with the perspective part, which I don't think anybody did, but if you did, it can be very confusing and it can be intimidating, but all of it, if you practice it, doodle it a little bit, all of a sudden it will make sense and it will be like so cool because you can create this illusion. And if it's a little off, like I said, it just makes the dock look a little old. So that's okay too. And I won't do the class next Sunday because that's Labor Day weekend. And I just think that probably most people are busy, but I will do it in 2 weeks. And also when you do sign up, because of the way my website works, you will automatically get the link to the recording, because now that link is in there if you want that, or if you want to share it with a friend who wants to try sometime, that's good too. Okay, so you kind of get 2 for 1 if you want. All right, good night.
Good night, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.
Thanks.